As always, my name is Chris Rainey, co-founder of HRD Leaders and host of the HR Leaders podcast. I'm joined by the fabulous Jill Katz and the ever-dashing Matt Burns. Today's special guest is the one and only Dave Ulrich. Welcome to the show.
I think some of the hotter topics that are out there today, and we're just hearing data. And I'm curious from your perspective, what is the actual role of data in human resources? Where does the data begin and end, and where does the human piece begin and end?
First, data is not new in human resources. Good human resources has been an evidence base for decades. We know that. But I think we've seen a four-step evolution in the way we use data or information. One is we do it for balanced scorecards, and we try to say, what does HR do? Number two, we use the data for insights. So we cull through a cloud set of data. We get insights about employees or their behavior. Number three, we use data for intervention. Should we hire A, B, C, or D? Should we train A, B, C, or D? And number four, we use data for business impact. My sense is that we've got to get data from a scorecard, which is kind of an activity, how many people got 40 hours of training, to insights, to intervention, to impact.
We've talked about data a few times. I think we've talked about balancing humanity and the quantitative conversation. The game has changed around data. So 15 years ago, you could monetize information in a really meaningful way. You could write a white paper, submit it, and then get, monetize that particular product. Today, information is so ubiquitous that it is very inexpensive to produce and very inexpensive to acquire. And the fact is that there's more data and information out there than most of us and most HR departments know what to do with. So it's not an issue of not being able to grab the data, it's making sense of the data you actually have. So when people ask me, how does HR need to interact with data going forward? I totally agree with what Dave is saying. And I would add one more piece, which is, I think the skill sets in the future are really threefold. The first one is synthesization, which is to take a lot of information and boil it down to really simple, complex ideas. Number two is curation, which is to put those small ideas in some sort of sequence that makes sense. And the third one is storytelling, which is to tell that in a very compelling way to drive an action, to drive a decision, to drive a result. I think nowadays, if I'm looking for skill sets from HR professionals, it's, can you take disparate forms of data, large sums of information, and find a mechanism to distill it, curate it, and then share it with the audience?
I think the way to get those three, and I really like simplify, curate, and storytelling, is to start with the impact. What will this data do to help me sell a product to a customer? What will this data do to build an investor confidence in my firm? And if we start from the outside in, the impact of what we're going to do, they don't want to hear a lot of stuff that's simple. They want it to be curated and focused, and they want it to be anecdotal and real. And so I really like those three pieces, Matt. And I think we get there to some extent. We get there better. I'm going to steal those, by the way. That'll be on LinkedIn next week.